There are 50 states in the US, and as a British family living in America with a ticking clock, we've made it our personal mission to visit every single one before we have to leave. Now, to put it into perspective, Texas alone is bigger than the UK. So, no, we can't explore every inch, but we're going to give it everything we've got. We're almost halfway through our time here, and so far, we've been really fortunate to visit 16 states in this incredible country. So today, I'm taking you on a little journey through all of the states we've visited so far. I'll keep it short and sweet, just the highlights of where we went and what we got up to. And if anywhere really grabs your attention, I've made full videos on a lot of these places, so you can dive in deeper if you want to. You'll find all of those linked in the description. So, with Halloween just around the corner, there's no better place to start than Massachusetts, home to Salem, one of the most famously spooky destinations in America. The town is infamous for the 1692 witch trials, and we came here for the full Halloween experience. We explored the Witch Museum, the Witch House, and stood at the Witch Trials Memorial. Of course, you can't visit Salem at Halloween without letting your 2-year-old dress up to join in with the fun. So Isabel came as Maleficent. We wandered down Essex Street, which was packed with shops, bars, and people in costume everywhere you looked. The whole place had this electric, eerie buzz to it. Halloween really comes to life here. Moving down to the state of Connecticut, we spent a long weekend here at Camp Sloan in Lakeville. And honestly, this has to be one of my top experiences so far. The scenery was stunning, and we packed so much in: hiking, climbing, water sports, and of course, trying s'mores for the first time. It felt like we were in our own little world, surrounded by nature. It was just beautiful. Isabel had the best time, and so did we. It was simple, outdoorsy, and one of those trips that remind you how good it feels to unplug. For weeks after we left, Isabel just kept asking when she can go back to camp. Then we have the state of New York. New York City is loud, it's fast, and it is buzzing. We started off walking through Central Park, soaking up the green space in the midst of the city. Then we made our way to Times Square with its giant billboards, dazzling lights, and that cinematic energy. We also went up the Empire State Building, which has 102 floors, and an observation deck on the 86th floor, about 1,050 feet up, and another deck on the 102nd floor at 1,250 feet. The views are incredible. And then came the Friends experience. We explored Monica's kitchen, her lounge, and so many familiar props from the show. At the end, you step into the Central Perk Cafe for coffees and for photos, and it was such a fun way to wrap it all up. We then crossed into New Jersey, where we visited Jersey City, often called America's Golden Door. So this is because it was the entry point for so many immigrants arriving through Ellis Island. My family actually flew over from England for this trip, so of course we had to do the full tourist thing and hop on a boat to see the Statue of Liberty. Even if you've seen it 100 times in movies, seeing it in person is something else entirely. The Manhattan skyline from the water is breathtaking, and one of those moments where you just have to stop and take it all in. After this, we road tripped to Niagara Falls, one of the world's most iconic natural wonders. The falls sit on the border between the US state of New York and the Canadian province of Ontario, with the Niagara River making the divide. And one of the best parts, you can easily cross the border on foot into Canada. Not a US state, of course, but when you're that close, it's too good of an opportunity to pass up. Next up is our home state of Pennsylvania. We've explored quite a few places close to home, starting with Lake Tobias Wildlife Park. It's family run. You hop on open air safari buses that rumble across about 150 acres of rolling hills, while herds of animals just wander around you. There's also a reptile and exotics building, a petting zoo, and you can even feed giraffes from a raised platform. The whole experience is fantastic, especially for children. Over in Harrisburg, the state capital, we watched our very first Harrisburg Senators baseball game, and we come back here quite often whenever there's an event happening. We actually spent our first 4th of July here, which was such a great experience. We had the game, fireworks, and then they played the Independence Day film on the big screen overlooking the field. It was an amazing first 4th of July. We've also been to a Harry Potter themed game, which was also such a fun night. And of course, they played the movie afterwards. Our next stay is Ohio, where we stopped in Dayton, home of the Wright brothers and the National Museum of the US Air Force. Dayton is often called the birthplace of aviation, and the museum is absolutely worth the trip. The scale of it honestly blew us away. Isabel loved pointing out the planes, playing in the cockpits, and exploring. It was one of those places that felt both fun and meaningful to visit as a family. Now we are jumping all the way over to Mississippi, where we visited South Haven with friends to watch Monster Jam. Now, this was for Isabel's 3rd birthday. I've mentioned in a previous video that my daughter is absolutely obsessed with Sparkle Smash, so this was a big day for her. She got to watch the show, meet Jamie Sullivan, the driver of Sparkle Smash, got a hug, and even had her toy monster truck signed. Her little face just lit up. It made the entire day. Next, we're in the state of Louisiana, visiting New Orleans, famously known as the birthplace of jazz. The French Quarter is the heart of the city, full of music, history, and stunning architecture. It's also where The Originals was filmed, so of course we had to check out the Hotel Royale, even if it was just a peek through the gates. It was a fun little fan moment. After exploring the streets and soaking in the atmosphere, it was time for what New Orleans is most famous for, Mardi Gras. This celebration goes back centuries and has roots in French Catholic tradition. The name literally translates to Fat Tuesday, marking the final day of feasting before Lent. What started in the late 1800s with a few trinkets tossed into the crowd has grown into the world-famous bead-throwing parades. My daughter ended up with so many beads. She was clinging to them like treasure. Taking them off her was a real mission, and yes, we brought them all home. Next is Hawaii, where we spent our time on the island of Oahu. Hawaii was unforgettable. My daughter learnt to snorkel, we saw sea turtles, and wandered through the most beautiful botanical gardens. We also made sure to learn a bit of history by visiting Pearl Harbor, which was a really moving experience. The only thing I didn't love about this trip was the journey there. We are a road trip family. We love car picnics and stopping to sightsee along the way. So flying was a whole different story. But honestly, once we landed, it was absolute paradise. Then back over to Florida. We spent a day by the sea at Cocoa Beach. Then that night, we drove to Max Brewer Bridge near Port Canaveral to watch a rocket launch, and it was incredible. We also visited Disney World, and let's be honest, it is not cheap, but we did plan ahead. We stayed on International Drive, picked up Disney character toys before the trip, so we were prepared when Isabel spotted things in the park. It's certainly a lot less stress on the budget. The parks themselves were exactly what you would expect. Busy, but amazing. But by the end of the day, our feet were burning. Moving back up, we visited the state of Georgia, where we stayed in Covington, the Hollywood of the South. This is where shows like The Vampire Diaries, Legacies, and Sweet Magnolias were filmed. We stayed at the 12 Oaks, a stunning mansion built in 1836 that actually inspired the home in Gone with the Wind. It's since been beautifully restored into a luxury bed and breakfast, and our room was the Salvatore brothers' study. If you're a Vampire Diaries fan, you would love it. The mansion has survived war, neglect, and restoration, and now it's on the National Register of Historic Places. And the town itself, it looks exactly like it does on TV. Filming spots everywhere, cute shops, and the famous Mystic Grill. Next up is the state of South Carolina, where we visited Myrtle Beach. This trip was all about switching off and soaking up the sun. Myrtle Beach is a popular resort city known as the golf capital of the world. Broadway at the beach was a big highlight for us, and so was the aquarium. It's one of those places that's hard to leave. State number 13 is North Carolina. We stopped at Fayetteville, a city with a really strong military connection. It's right next to Fort Bragg, one of the largest army bases in the country. The military presence is a huge part of the city's identity. Next, we're in Virginia, where we stopped between destinations at a hotel called Virginia Crossings in Glen Allen. It was just a quick stopover, but Virginia actually holds a special place in my heart. I did a deployment here, more specifically in Norfolk, Virginia, but ever since then, it's been one of those places I've always wanted to come back to. Then we have West Virginia, where we stopped in Harper's Ferry. This tiny town is packed with history. In 1859, John Brown led a raid on the Federal Armory here, hoping to spark a massive slave rebellion. The attempt failed, but it dramatically heightened tensions and pushed the nation closer to civil war. Today, Harper's Ferry has cobblestone streets, historic buildings, and stunning river views. Even though we were only there for an hour, it really left a big impression. The last state is Maryland, where we stopped in the charming city of Frederick, the second largest city in the state. It's full of historic buildings, cute little shops, and cafes that give it that small town feel, which is funny because it's actually one of the biggest cities in the state. And that's our journey so far. I will be honest though, this isn't easy. All this travel takes a lot of planning, budgeting, and honestly, a fair bit of sacrifices behind the scene. When we're not traveling, we're saving so we can travel. We thrift, we skip the fancy stuff, but for us, it's absolutely worth it. The next trips we have planned are to Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and Indiana. So I would love to hear any recommendations you have for these places, and let me know which state is your favorite. Let me know in the comments. I love hearing your recommendations and experiences. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe. I upload twice a week. And of course, a massive thank you to my channel members for supporting my channel and being such a big part of this journey.